This is Michael Blackstone with the Sheriff Show. Our guest is Lee County Sheriff Gary Parsons. Today we're going to be talking about something that's obviously bothering all of Southwest Virginia, Gary, and it's in regards to officer-related incidents. Our bordering counties have had several in the past year that have resulted in violence, crimes of violence, officers being shot, and so on. So in Lee County, give us the take on how the Lee County Sheriff's Office and law enforcement is guided in this county. What do the officers have to face, and what are things that maybe the general public can understand about what these guys are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, being as all of this seems to be so close to home right now.
Yeah, excuse me. That's something people should, I think take for granted that anything that can happen anywhere in the city or any urban area can happen here. Just as an example, as the young officer that was shot recently, and that's a very sad situation. There's a young man trying to make a living, support his family, and he goes out and some piece of crap, guns him down. And something we want to emphasize to the public is that sometimes officers may seem harsh in their job and what they do, maybe the way they instruct you when they approach you. Keep in mind, these officers don't know who you are most of the time, and they don't know what your mindset is. When they get a call and they have to go to a domestic situation or something, they may seem harsh in their orders to get your hands out, do this, and it may seem offensive to you, but just keep in mind that these officers have to approach situations unknowingly, and they have to protect their lives. They want to go home to their families. So, give them a little leeway in the job that they're doing, because they have to be harsh sometimes. And, of course, one of the scariest things you can do is stop a vehicle. And you walk up beside that vehicle, you have no idea who's in there, what kind of weapons are in there. It takes a lot of courage and takes a lot of determination and a lot of commitment to do a job like that, and I certainly commend the young man who lost his life, in Big Stone just recently. Yeah,
that's a tragic deal. So the some of the things that they do go, like you're saying, in road stops, domestic calls. These things are so volatile. They can go from calm to out of control in 2 seconds flat. What are some of the safety precautions that your officers are doing and using, maybe in the form of equipment? The Lee County officers, are they using body cams, and how do you feel about that specific thing as a tool in these?
Well, I was probably one of the first agencies in Southwest Virginia to get body cameras for two reasons. I knew it was coming. It's something you might as well get ahead of it. It's going to be required. But, a lot of the officers, when they first came out, they were nervous about it, are they going to be filming me when I go to a convenience store, is everything? Because I guess there were some concerns about things like that. But they now realize, what I realized when we got them, they're there to protect the officer as much as the citizen that we're dealing with. Before it was the citizen's word against the officer's word. Now if someone comes in and says an officer mistreated them, done something incorrectly, I've got all that body camera here. I can pull it and see exactly what happened. And like I think we talked about in the previous interview, I've got everything from the time when the call came in. I've got that recorded on the phone lines. When the call was dispatched out, I've got that recorded. And then I also have the body camera when the officer responded. So basically I can complete the circle of everything that happened on that call and be able to go back and review it and make sure it was handled properly.
I think it's a lot of people. It's important to know that just because you are a police officer, just because you carry a gun as part of your tool and protection, cops just can't go out and shoot people.
Right.
And in some ways, a person in the general public could actually be involved in a shooting and have less scrutiny, less headaches and stuff like that. So I think the use of body cams and stuff where you can see everything that happened, is so important.
When I first came here, when I first became sheriff, we had a nightstick, and then we had a gun. So all we had was from stick. If stick didn't work, the gun's all we got left, and we had no intermediate force. But now, when I took over, we got pepper spray, which is very effective, and then later on, when it became more practical, tasers. So we've came a long way as far as the tasers can immobilize people. Pepper spray can immobilize them, but there are levels of force, and these officers are trained in the academy about what situations call for the certain use of force, and they're much better trained now than they was back when I went through the academy. I went through in '88, I guess, and it was good training, but it's just as good as it could be in 1988.
Sure, it's always a tough thing. I think when you take a guy that's I don't know what the average age of a police officer, but I would say in the 25 to 30-year range. You're getting that person that's got youth, and it could be guy or girl, but in that range, it just experience in life.
Mm-hmm.
They don't quite have it yet, and like old guys like us, you know what I'm saying, and so it's they got a split second to make some life-altering decisions, in many cases. Do you guys train them, or do you have things? I know the academy does stuff, but do you have furtherance or training or things like that?
We do. We do. Of course, the academy does scenarios. That's a big part of the academy, situations and how to react to them. Of course, there's no way to train people to react to every situation because you can't. But they go to a 18-week academy when they first start, and then every 2 years they have to do 40 hours of research of different topics and things. So, and we're audited by the Department of Criminal Justice Services, make sure that all our training's up to the standards they require.
So from the general public standpoint, there's been these tragic shootings. This one in Big Stone here this past week in just a terrible situation, and that has literally caught attention not only nationwide but especially across our state, all the way from the governor on down. And when we look at this kind of stuff going on, what can the general public do to maybe in our own actions to ease the mind of an officer? An officer's just doing his job, and so when an officer is approaching you or something like that, how can we ease a mind? What are some things, maybe tips you could tell to the general public? Because all across, especially in Southwest Virginia, with all of these recent tragedies going on, there's not a cop out there working the streets that's not
Right.
real.
Right.
They got their hair up on stuff, and they're and justifiably so. I mean, I'd be kind of freaked out too. So what can the general public do?
Well, first of all, remain calm, and I know that's hard to do in some situations because your tempers are flaring when we arrive on the scene. But if someone jumps out of the door cursing or something, immediately our warning level goes up, and so be calm, keep your hands where they can be seen, don't make any quick actions. And most people that are sensible and they realize that. I think this officer shooting in just this area in general shows that probably 99.9% of the people in this area support law enforcement. You can see the outpouring of grief and concern for this young man and his family. And I think the people that all this defund the police stuff is such a minority, that they shouldn't even be pushing the agenda, but they are. Such a small group of people is pushing this agenda, but it's not the majority. I mean, and we live in an area where, like I say, anything can happen anytime. I mean, an officer could step out just like this young man in Big Stone, and somebody could come out and start shooting. But in our area, we do have the support of citizens, and you think about young officers out in urban areas. I'd be terrified to crawl into Mark Union and drive through some of those urban areas where everybody there hates you.
Oh man!
And we're fortunate here that we have the backing of the citizenry, and we appreciate all the support they give us.
That's good. I think the general public needs to understand too. Just because an officer may approach you or responds to a call and ask you to either keep yourself visible or something like that, that doesn't mean you're a criminal.
Correct.
That doesn't mean that the officer is accusing you of anything. It purely means that there's a line. He's trying to do his job, make his job easy for him, get to the bottom of it. And many times, it's a situation that can be resolved real quickly if you're, remaining calm and just go through the procedure. It doesn't mean you're a convicted criminal.
Right.
In fact, you could be in the right in the situation, but let the officer catch up to speed on what's
Exactly.
happening, and so Gary, I think Lee County's done a great job, and you're doing a great job with the guiding of law enforcement and stuff like that. We wish safety to all of our first responders, law enforcement, and stuff like that. So we'll call this a wrap, and talk
Sounds
to you
good.
soon.
Thank you.